start with a great big welcome. Thank you so much for being here. This code, this embodiment code, no problem, Janet. This embodiment code is something that came through a little while ago, and I've been in this beautiful process this year of recalibrating and re-looking at the work that I'm putting into the world and really what I want to deliver. And for those of you that did emerge with me, we talked about the different seasons that we go through in our lives, and we go through metaphorically, whether it's the physical season or metaphorically. Hey, Laurie Beth. It is this process of we go through a period of autumn, which is the season of letting go and a season of shedding the things that no longer serve us and a reassessment. And then winter really is the season of reconnecting deeply to who we are, the things that matter most to us. It can be a time of grief. It is that period of darkness that is incredibly nurturing and incredibly important for us to reconnect to our intuition and the authenticity of who we are and the lives that we're here to create. And then we go into a period of spring. And for those of us in the Southern Hemisphere, we are there right now, physically in our external environment. But for myself and the clients that I've been working with all year, I feel like my private clients and I have just come out. This is on the back end of our annual retreat, which is called Effervescence, and it is the celebration of life. And so to be at this point now really is an emerging phase. So the embodiment code is timed to perfection for all of us, whether you are in the Northern Hemisphere or the Southern Hemisphere, to start to emerge into the next season of who we are here to be as women. And there's an element of this, I think of it like the precious daisy or the flower that somehow appears and cracks through the cold soil, the hard soils of winter, or through the crack in the concrete, there is this emergence of a flower. And it's like, it takes some effort, it takes some concentration, it takes some will. But once the push through happens, we get to go into a period of summer. So I wanted to start with that sort of grounding understanding of the work that we're doing. But this work, as far as the personal development work that I do and the journey that we go on over an extended period of time inside of my company, which is Eudaimonia, where women blossom and flourish, in this space, it is a gentle unfolding. Some things happen in a moment where you get an instant, like it's the pieces of the puzzle come together, and suddenly everything that you've been working on makes sense in a beautiful way. And the picture becomes clearer of all the things that you've been working on slowly, and the next evolution of you blossoms. And then we get to keep going, because the end is the day we die. And until that time, which can be 20, 30, 40 years away from where we are now, as a 52-year-old woman, I am very clear that I am only halfway through my journey. So there's another potentially 50 years or maybe 52 years where I get to take all the wisdom that I've been accumulating, all the knowledge that I now have, to create the next chapter of my life. So the embodiment code is a 3-step process that I'm going to take you through. We'll start with step 1 today, which really is the foundation of the life that you are creating. Without this one piece being really solid and clear, everything that you stand on wobbles. So what I want to do is help you to understand the critical importance of this first step. And this is going to unfold throughout this conversation. If you have questions that come up, please put them in the chat. If I've got time at the end, I'll come back to them. If not, I may address them on tomorrow's call, or I might actually tack on. If I feel like there is enough need for a Q&A, I might tack on a bonus session at the end. But as far as the personal development work that I want to take you through, this is a first step. This is the first piece. So if you use the term manifestation, which is something that I've been reticent to use for a big chunk of my business, because I feel as though there is a concept around manifestation that is taught that creates a feeling of this doesn't work for me in women. And I don't want to be part of that conversation. So I want to change the conversation around manifestation, because as a very passionate student of personal development, and I've been on this journey for many, many, many years, reading, working with coaches, and deep in this work for a long time, I can confidently tell you that manifestation is an absolute undeniable thing, but there is a way to do it deliberately, and there is a way to do it unconsciously. You are creating your life every day with every breath, every thought, every word, every deed. You are creating something. You are here right now in the life that you have created until this moment. Everything that is in your life is somehow, in some way, a manifestation of the life that you created. And you're going to understand more about that, a lot more about that, by the time we get to the end of this embodiment code. This is what it's all about. It is about embodying the truth, the authenticity of who you are, what you're here to do, and what you're here to have. And you get to look at that in the picture of this is where I am, so that moving forward, you have a much more empowered way of looking at this is what I want to create next. So there have been, I want to just do a little bit of homework before I dive into too much content. There have been a whole lot of emails going out, and my apologies, there's been we're using a fairly new platform, and the links haven't been clickable, and emails haven't gone out that were supposed to go out. And so I apologize if there's a wobble going on. But just rest assured that we've got you. My VA Gia will be in my emails. If you have questions, if links aren't working for you, all you need to do is just return to any email from me. You can pop into my Facebook in Messenger. We are here to support you in any possible way that we can. So just know we've got you. If there's something that's not working or you can't find something, ask the question and we'll make sure that we get you sorted. The replays for this masterclass, I've decided to run it for free while it's live, because I want as many people as possible to get this information. And then after we finish the replay period, which will be on Sunday for those of us in the Southern Hemisphere, on Saturday if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it will then be part of my paid program suite. So please, wherever possible, show up live. If you can't be with me live, take responsibility for putting it in your calendar, scheduling it in so that you don't miss it. There will be an opportunity to, as I said, to buy the program, so you've got it to watch and watch on repeat. This is information that I deeply wish I had many, many years ago for myself as a young woman leaving school, but also I wish that I had this level of clarity and simplicity in my awareness when I was raising my children, who are now all young adults. If I had have had this much earlier, there are different ways that I would have gone into raising my children, but this will all become evident. I don't want to say too much because I just want to take you through this step by step by step. So I think they're the main things. I just saw, I'm just going to double check. Okay. I'm just going to make, Gia, I can't seem to make you co-host. I can make you host, but then that's going to, yeah, I can't see how to make you co-host. So I think what I'm going to have to do is just keep going. And if I see people that are going to come in late, I'll let them in. Okay. All right. So the very first step in manifesting, in creating the lives we have. Okay, thanks, Gia. The very first step in creating anything we want, who we want to be, what we want to do, what we want to have, all of it relies on our thoughts. The thoughts that are running through our minds and our beliefs dictate everything. Our thoughts are what stop us from doing things, what encourage us to do things, what keep us stuck, anything and everything. So how do our thoughts come to be? How are they created? From the moment we are born, we are collecting messages. From the moment we arrive into the world, we are collecting messages about who we are, how loved we are, how much we're wanted, our level of safety, the level of care, everything. So from the first moment we arrive, our thoughts are starting to be created. And then those thoughts, the more that they're repeated, become hardwired into our subconscious and our conscious brains, to the point where we have no idea where thoughts come from. Why on earth do I keep doing this? Why on earth do I keep thinking this? Why on earth can't I get myself to do this? How am I still at this same place that I am? Why do I continue to struggle with? So much of it comes from thoughts that are hardwired into our subconscious in the first 7 years of our life. In the first 2 years of life, we don't see ourselves as separate from our mothers. So to be separated from our mothers is a little bit like having a limb that's separated from us. We don't identify as a separate person. So we absorb the thoughts and emotions of our mums. It is just the reality. And then there is a slow period of separation where the spirit embodies and incarnates into the physical body. Between that, it starts from 0 and goes through to 7, but the separation from our mothers starts roughly around 2 till 7. So during this critical time, we are picking up all sorts of information from our environments. We are all a product of our environments. Our thoughts and beliefs are shaped by our environments. And in the earliest years of our lives, we have no say in our environment. So we're in this beautiful bubble of our family where our thoughts and beliefs start to be formed. And then there is a shift into a larger pool of influence. Our environment starts to grow as we move into preschool and primary school. And so during those years, the thoughts and beliefs that we have about ourselves The messaging, we are like sponges. There is very little discernment that is going on at that age. There is this open sponge that is, if the authority in my life says it's true, then it's true. There's barely any questioning. For those of you that had children or can remember being that age, you will see where the thoughts and beliefs, the foundations of how we see ourselves in the world are starting to be wired in. And so depending on your experience in your family and depending on your experience in your primary school years, you will see how the solid or the wobbly thoughts and beliefs, where they came from. And there will be a cocktail, there'll be a recipe, there'll be some areas where you feel stronger and some areas where you don't feel strong. And so in my story, by the time I went through that period, and then I was in boarding school at year 9, so there is another critical time of transition from during adolescence, where we are, roughly in year 9, around that sort of 13-year-old space, 12, 13, where we then move into this 7-year transition until we're 21, so 14 to 21, is a critical time of transition for us, where we start to learn in an ideal world to trust ourselves above and beyond the opinion of everybody around us. For the vast majority of people, this critical piece is the piece where so much, the foundation, the solid foundation that needs to be laid at that age is not being laid. It's full of cracks. And so the vast majority of us get through this point, for those of us that finish school around 17, 18, still really dependent on the opinion of others. And for most of us at that age, it's the opinion of our peers. It may be that the opinion of our parents is still important, depending on your relationships with your parents. Then you might move into a work environment and you have bosses, or you might move into a college or university environment. Then it's the lecturers and peers. So in my story, leaving school at the end of year 12, I was 17, and my foundation, my thoughts were very wobbly. So I had what I call a very hefty dose of not good enough syndrome. I wasn't good at school, so I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't musical enough. I wasn't sporty enough. I wasn't thin enough. I wasn't pretty enough. Didn't fit in. I didn't belong. I was the outcast. And so my thoughts, my beliefs at that time was that I wasn't capable of creating the life that I wanted. If I wanted to live an amazing life, it was going to be dependent on the will of others. And I want, as I say this, for you to think about where you were at that time. So this is where the conversation about intuition becomes critically important. The ability to trust yourself, to know who you are, what lights you up, that you were born with unlimited potential. And it is through the process of who you're exposed to that unlimited potential, that the lid begins to close, or the walls of the box start to decrease, start to come in. So it is really important that you start to see where your box was shrinking, where your unlimited potential started to get a cap put on it. From school, my journey was, as I said, that I started to my go-to was, if you say it's true, it must be true, because I'm not smart enough to know for myself. So if you like me, I'm just grateful that somebody likes me. If you say I'm not pretty enough, or too fat, or not smart enough, or not creative, or not, then it must be true. And that is the place I was when I launched myself into the adult world. There wasn't anybody in my environment who was saying, you have unlimited potential to be, do, and have what your soul feels called to do. We are all born with a calling. We are all born with a dharma, a journey that we are here to take. Of that, I have no doubt. As a mother of four, I can see, four children, two boys, two girls, all raised in exactly the same environment with the same input, the same everything. And they are each incredibly different because they are here with their own journey to live. All of us are. So we have a soul calling, and it is that soul voice that is the intuition that you get to listen to. It is the authority in your life, above and beyond anybody else. And so this is a journey of learning to trust that voice so that it influences your thoughts and creates your beliefs. This is the key to everything. This is the key to creating the life you want. The first step in the embodiment code. And this has a lot more to do with unbecoming than it does to do with becoming. You are within you the highest potential, the most authentic, extraordinary version of you is already here. She already exists. So what we need to do is start to peel back the layers of all the messaging and all the thoughts and all the beliefs that you've collected on your journey till now that aren't serving you. And as much as I wish I could do some magical performance and rip off the Band-Aid and rip off the cloak or rip off whatever the picture is that's in your mind of all these pieces that are not serving you, it's not a 5-minute process. So I want to share parts of my journey so you can see in my journey and in my story how these different awarenesses and different ways of being and thoughts and beliefs have shaped the different chapters in my life. So in that chapter, there is a chapter in my life between 17 and 36. So at 17, I finished year 12 and somehow scraped through by the skin of my teeth. And in those days, in the environment that I was in, everybody went to university. Everybody did year 12 and everybody went to university. And so the only course somehow that I felt I could get into and I signed up for and got into was commerce. And to this day, I can't even tell you what you learn in commerce. I didn't even understand what I was doing, but I was put in a funnel with people in authority who said, this is what you can do. This is what you should do, looking at your marks, nothing to do with who I am and my genius in the world, just plonked in this place. And I remember feeling like, I'm going to use a term that one of my clients used because it was so gorgeous, Justine. She talked about being in a walnut shell out at sea, just kind of at the will of the elements, bouncing around like what I don't even know what I'm doing. What am I here for? Where do I go? No paddle, no control over my own future. That's what like that's what it felt like. There was an illusion that I had some control, but when I look back, I can see where I was just at the will of the environment around me and the people that are around me. What do you think I should do? How many times have you said that? So I did a year of that. And then there was a few other pieces that unfolded during that time. I only did a year of that. I ended up doing um, a hospitality course, and I learned how to make cocktails and work in a bar. And so I ended up working in a nightclub, which was really fun. And then I ended up in far north Queensland here in Australia working in a nightclub, which I called my Coyote Ugly Days, where I danced on bars and was nocturnal and probably borderline alcoholic. It was a very fun but very unhealthy period of my life. And I came back and I did a stint of secretarial college. That was the next thing that I wanted to be a stenographer. And so I went to secretarial college and learned how to type really fast and had a picture of wanting to work in courts, the people that take notes in courts. I thought that looked quite kind of glamorous and fun. And so I learned that, all the while collecting interesting but very random skills that I didn't know at the time were all going to all come together eventually. I had a boyfriend for 3 years who I was just super grateful that he liked me, even though I had a clear sense that I was going down the wrong path and doing all sorts of things that were not really comfortable and didn't feel in alignment with me. And then he ended up cheating on me and we broke up. And then I got in another relationship with somebody for 5 years who was a musician and an incredibly large presence and very cool. And he'd started down the whole drug path, which I am glad that I didn't take, but I was walking side by side with somebody who was doing heroin and going to work to pay for the rent to feed him so that he could sleep all day, take his drugs and go out and perform at night and live this seemingly glamorous life. And that lasted for about 5 years until the rug was pulled out from my feet and I learned all sorts of things that I just couldn't live with anymore. And so we parted ways, and it was just bouncing from one relationship to the other, where when I look back, I can see that I was just grateful that somebody saw me, that somebody wanted to be with me, because I didn't have the self-esteem and the self-worth to think that I could choose the perfect person for me. And so this continues to be a story of thoughts and beliefs that were not serving me in any way, shape, or form to create the most extraordinary life that I could be living. However, I can also see how life was happening for me because I was collecting experiences and wisdom from the really challenging times that I was going through. So through those relationships, I met my first husband. And once again, we came together from this place of not wanting to be alone, seeing things about each other that we deeply loved and appreciated. But there were also a lot of red flags about why we never should have been together. 12 months later, my first beautiful son, I got pregnant with our eldest son. And then I had 3 babies in 3.5 years. We were married, and then my 4th child came 4 years later. And I started this call with talking about foundations and the critical foundations that we need in order to have the strength under us to build the life we're here to live, that foundation was very rocky. So of course it broke. It was full of cracks. He walked away when our baby was 5 months old. So I had 4 children, 8, 6, 4, and 5 months old, 2 boys and 2 girls. And I suddenly found myself as a soul care single mother with no job, because we'd had a commitment between each other that I was going to raise our children. I didn't want to put my children into other people's hands to raise. And so he was working and I was raising my children. So he walked away. I had no job. We did have a property that he also walked away from. And suddenly, at 36, the next chapter of my life started to unfold. So looking at this first chapter that was built on the thoughts and beliefs that I had as I was launched into the world, as learning to adult, learning to parent myself, being a woman, my launching pad into womanhood, is easy to see how all of that was on such rocky ground and eventually cracked and fell apart, till I was in a place of on my knees, the unbelievable fear, the grief, the picture that I'd always had of the white picket fence and the perfect family and the beautiful everything was just suddenly ripped out within a matter of hours. It was all over. And so from that place began the next chapter, the next evolution of who I became. So as I tell this story, I hope that you will take time, even if you watch this again on replay, take time to think about what feels like the first chapter for you of womanhood. Who were you? What were your thoughts and beliefs about you and your potential to be, do, and have anything at that point? Where were you? And just start to notice and look at intuitively, you will know, like, what is this first chapter for you? What does it look like? And as much as possible, just start writing. And the more you write and the more you think about it, the more clarity you will get, concentrating on the thoughts and beliefs that you had and where they came from, without fault, blame, guilt, shame. This isn't about putting blame on anybody or shaming anybody, creating fault. It is simply a place of maturity and curiosity about what created you. How did you come to be where you were? And what were the thoughts and beliefs that created that first chapter in your life? So from that place at 36, as a suddenly single soul care parent of 4 children, I went into a period of deep grief for probably 12 months. But so that was a period of winter. I started this call talking about, we go through these periods, and sometimes, we can have all seasons in one day. You can have the period of contemplation and quiet in dark, which is a period of winter. You can have a period of letting go at the end of your day, or at the end of a year, or at the end of a month, or at the end of a chapter. It's like, what am I hanging on to that is not serving me? What are the thoughts and beliefs that are running my life that are not serving me to create the life I want? It's not who I want to be. It's not how I want to behave. I don't have the things that I want to have. I'm not doing the things that I know intuitively I'm here to do. So that's that winter, autumn, letting go, contemplation, reflection. So that 12-month period after my first husband walked away was a period of winter. It was a period of autumn. Oh my gosh. And the strength that little bit by little bit by little bit started to grow. I had no choice at that point than to grow up. Actually, I'm going to undo that sentence. I had a choice. I had a choice. I actually had somebody in my life who said to me, you could put the kids in foster care. And it was just this moment of rock solid certainty that that was never going to happen. And at the time, I was deeply disturbed that they said that to me because it was a relative, a close relative. And also, in reflection, I'm really glad she did, because there are these pockets, these moments in time where you have a choice to step up or step out. And that was a step up moment. That was a rock solid thought that started to shift the beliefs about what was possible for me. And so, step by slow step, as life presented me with everything that I needed in perfect order to grow up, I kept stepping up. Life will do this for all of us. You are always presented with the next opportunity to step up. And it is my hope that this program is one of those moments for you. A pivotal moment that you will look back on in years to come, and you can say, I can see where the next chapter in my life started with this understanding. So I had a period of time there where there were a couple of pivotal things that happened that took me on the next leap. One was that my children all got really sick with tonsillitis, and I got tonsillitis myself. And I was not sleeping. I was nursing my babies and looking after them, and not even noticing that I wasn't even drinking water because I couldn't even swallow my own saliva. But the things that you can do when you are motivated to care for others is quite extraordinary. But there came a moment where in the middle of the night, it was like I'm at danger point. And so I was so sick. Got my beautiful kids out of bed and popped them in the car and drove myself into the hospital. And my kids remember it to this day because they didn't have TV and we didn't eat junk food. And the nurses put on the telly for them and made them hot chocolates. And, they thought it was fabulous. And they hooked me up to a drip and rehydrated me. And the pivotal moment for me was, and I can feel like the desire to cry just thinking about it, the vulnerability. The doctor said to me, I am not letting you leave this hospital until you call somebody for help. You can't do this by yourself. And that moment of vulnerability, the thoughts that were in my head is that we tell people the things that are good and the things that are going right, but to admit that I'm not coping is to admit that I am a failure. Digest that. The moment that I admit I'm failing or I'm not coping takes on the identity that I'm a failure and that I'm not good enough. And I didn't want to feed that identity. And so that doctor saying to me, you are not leaving this hospital until you call somebody for support, for help, was a back against the wall moment. It was so uncomfortable. It was so hard. It was awful. And I was really unhappy that he put me in that position. And now I am so glad he did. So the person I thought to call was a girlfriend of mine who is the youngest of 10 children, and she had 2 children of her, she still does, but she had 2 young children of her own. And I rang her in the middle of the night and said, I'm in trouble. And she went into action. She was just this amazing, grounded, incredible soul who was like, thank what you told me. I am so glad you rang me. And so that was a pivotal moment where I reached out and supported somebody for help and asked somebody for help. And I want you to look in your own lives at the moments where you have felt like you should be able to do this, to admit failure, to admit that you're not coping is so strong in the desire for nobody to know that, because somehow it makes the identity of who you are as somebody who's not good enough is something as women we've got to undo. In me asking her for help, I gave her permission to ask me for help. When you ask somebody else for help, you are giving them permission to ask for help. This is how we become stronger when we work together. This is women supporting women, or with men as well. But men don't struggle with this as much as women do. They don't take on that identity piece as strongly. So that was one of the pivotal changing moments. The next pivotal changing moment that I want to share with you is we had this 12-month period of grief. I sold my farm. We rented a house by the beach, which I called my, the recovery period of time. So it was a beach shack with no insulation, and there were ants that came into the kitchen with every meal. Everything had to be kept meticulously clean. In summer, it was boiling hot. In winter, it was freezing cold. But we lived within a couple of steps of the most beautiful beach where my youngest son learned to walk and my eldest son learned to sail, and we made a beautiful friend during that time and that's another part of the story, but it is really this idea, remembering that life is happening for us every step of the way. When we follow the nudges, we end up where we're supposed to be, even when it feels incredibly uncomfortable. There's something in that experience that is going to give us the strength to create something even more magnificent. So when you think about creating your life, it's like one brick at a time. And sometimes a brick gets a crack in it and it's got to be pulled out and replaced with something stronger. So this is where you realize some of your thoughts are a crack in the strength of your foundation, and it gets to be pulled out and replaced with something stronger. So after this period of, the word is escaping my brain, but it was a period of recouping. I'll use that word. Coming back to who we were. I simplified our lives to a point where I could just focus on something much smaller rather than at running a farm and being a long way out of town. We came into a little village environment, in a smaller environment, and I just created on the simplest things that I could. And then from there, I bought a flower farm, which was the beginning, the emerging, a period of spring where we were emerging into this beautiful next chapter. And on that flower farm, I learned who I am. The essence of who I am, the manifestation in my physical environment started to take shape as I was making decisions for me and for my children, for the highest good of all. And so the things that my soul wanted, when I listened to it, and I didn't even have the language for it at that point, it was just that I didn't have other people to lean on. So there weren't other voices that were causing so much clutter. But the life that we created step by step by step was the manifestation of everything that lights up my soul. We were on a flower farm in a cute little house with a veranda. We ate organic food. I had a vegetable garden. I had an orchard. My children were in a Steiner school, so they were being educated in this beautiful, nurturing environment. I had extraordinary friendships, beautiful women. There were in essence, there were three of us in that time of my life. Between us, we had 10 children who grew up like brothers and sisters. I had a sense of community for the first time in my life. I had women that I felt like I could lean on, and they became what I now term my no filter friends, the people that you can share your thoughts and beliefs with without filtering. People that it doesn't matter if you vote for different political parties, have different dietary beliefs, have, like it doesn't matter, because there is this safety that comes with being with people who are your no filter friends. And you only need a small handful to create a beautiful environment around you that supports you to become who you're here to be. So I had a moment, another pivotal moment, where my thoughts and beliefs shifted gear. And I was sitting on my veranda looking at, I had 100 roses in my private garden that were roses that I used to do weddings and hotels, and I sold them in little roadside stands around the place. And it was summer, and it was absolutely a moment of celebration. But I was sitting on this veranda, the roses were in bloom, they had been pruned, and everything looked neat. The garden beds were neat, the lawn was mowed, and my children were running around half naked, barefoot, full of glee, full of vitality, full of life. And there was a blue sky with just a scattering of clouds. The air was clean, the temperature was warm, and I was sitting on the veranda with my camera capturing these moments. And I had a what the fuck moment. And I don't swear very often. I try not to swear, but that was literally the thought I had. And so I want to share it with you authentically. Until then, I had my training, my thoughts were, my beliefs was that my life was not good. I was not good enough if the laundry wasn't all done and the clothes weren't all folded and put away. The children weren't, pristinely dressed and everything, like the picture that has to be. All my emails were answered and responded to. The people around me all thought I was fabulous. Had the certain amount of money in my bank account. I lived in a house that looked a certain way. I drove a certain car. My thoughts and beliefs, because that picture wasn't what I thought and believed it should be, I still wasn't good enough. I didn't have, at that point, I was actually a qualified naturopath, but because of my thoughts and beliefs, what you focus on expands. I still had the thoughts and beliefs that nothing was enough. I wasn't good enough. I was waiting somehow mysteriously for this elusive moment when somebody would hand me the graduating from life certificate that I was good enough, that somebody externally would give me that validation, that there would be something that gave me that thought and belief. And in that moment, capturing the picture in front of me, in that what the fuck moment, it was, I literally have it all right now as it is. My life is beautiful. And I created this in co-creation with Source. I created this. there were two thoughts and beliefs running side by side. I want to be in the country. I want to be surrounded by fresh flowers, and I want my kids to be healthy and vital and amazing. And I want to feel healthy and vital in my body. And I want to have clothes that make me feel good. And I want, and I want, and I want. But then it was overshadowed by the thoughts and beliefs that it's not right yet. And in that moment, the clarity that came through that you have created the life you wanted, it's right in front of your eyes, was a pivotal moment. And so we can travel through our lives with hopes, wishes, prayers that we have something, and it's right in front of our eyes, and we miss it. We miss the fact that we've created what we wanted because we're focusing on the idea, the thought and belief that's running our subconscious mind that it's not good enough yet. I got this amount of money, but I should have this amount. I've got this car, but I should have this car. I've got this house, but I should have this house. You know, like I've got this relationship with my husband, but it should be this relationship. I've got, but it should. I've got, but it should. And as long as you miss the point, the moment of celebration of right now, in front of my eyes, I have everything that was on my wish list, and I'm excited for the evolution of what I get to create next. This bit is gratitude. And you will have heard 1,000 people online talking about having a gratitude practice and the importance of cultivating gratitude. This is the pivotal, incredibly important part that can completely transform your experience of life, your perception of who you are, what you do, and what you have. And then the foundation becomes more solid. But the foundation is going to be constantly tested. Life isn't a one and done thing. It's an ongoing evolution. And it's exciting because it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And the stronger it is, the more extraordinary the life is that you can build on top of it. But until you get the thoughts and beliefs solid, and so it can survive the wobbles and become more solid once again, until you have the understanding of what's creating the wobble, then the empowered part of you to create the next chapter remains shaky. So from that place, my deep work of personal development began. Before that, it was an unconscious experience of reacting to the things around me. It was an unawareness that I've got a say in this. And this is the difference between reacting and being responsible. It's the difference between being the victim of everything that life throws at you and having that spine straightening moment of I am responsible for creating everything in my environment. I am responsible for creating my environment. And so this is where I want to invite you to become the guardian of your mind and to become very conscious of your environment, the things that you listen to, the coaches that you work with, the books that you read, the movies you watch, the news that you listen to, it was one of the most powerful mental health decisions I ever made, was to turn off the news. I haven't consciously listened to the news for many, many, many years. There are things that you can do to take control of your environment. And a big part of it is deciding who you want to tune into and having the maturity to tune out the voices that are not serving you to become who you are here to become. So from that place, I was a naturopath and I studied functional nutrition. I've always, my soul, part of my soul is here to be a role model of what it looks like to feed your body and treat your body like a temple. Like it is the vehicle that's running you through your life. You have soul and spirit. Soul is within, spirit is without. That are the three pieces are working in alignment to create the life you have. If we don't look after the vehicle, it's hard for the rest of it to come into alignment so that you can create the life you're here for. But all three pieces get to have the time and attention and care that they need. So what I want to do from here is give you, as you move into your day between now and when we connect tomorrow, I want to give you a few words that can be used for you to think about the life that you have created till now, to this point, and the thoughts and beliefs that have created the foundation under you without fault, blame, guilt, shame. It's not about saying, well, my mum did this, so of course I'm that. And my teacher did this, so of course I'm that. It's not, we don't want to pass the blame because that doesn't do anything to support us. Every step of the way beyond childhood, we're making choices and we get to take responsibility for those choices and simply look at them through a lens of curiosity. If I went through this, what was the lesson? What was the value? How did that serve me to become the woman I am today? So the words I want to give you, the first one is perspective. I'm looking out the window in front of me and the sky's really grey and the wind is blowing. And perspective is about looking out the window and saying, oh, it's a miserable grey, blowy day, or oh, look at the beautiful clouds and the movement in the trees and seeing the beauty. You can see the beauty in just about everything around you if you choose to. What you focus on expands. And so making the choice to look at your life story, the different chapters, through this perspective of my life is a masterpiece in the making. And if you think of any movie you've watched or any book you've read where the heroine goes through these trials and comes out the other end stronger and goes through hardship and there's awful tears and heartbreak and grief and celebration and weddings and divorce and graduating and missing the mark and failing and getting your license and having a car crash. And, like there's ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. And every step of the way, we are creating this story. And when you look at your story through the perspective of my life has been a masterpiece in the making, the master that creates the piece of work that's extraordinary, and you've got to shift the perspective of it and take this piece out and let it go and add something else in and move this here and change how you look at everything. Then your perspective of your whole life gets to shift. And so take a moment to think about your thoughts and your beliefs around the life that you have lived until this moment in time. And the story that I want you to have in your head, if I was to tell this story like it is a story of magic and miracles, how would I tell the story? How would I tell the story? And I know this can be challenging. For many, many, many years, I told the story of my first husband walking away as woe is me. My life is so hard. I am the victim. It wasn't my fault. No wonder I'm sad and miserable and unhappy. And then when I can look at it with maturity in hindsight, I can see it for the gift that he gave me. I can see in my life with wisdom and maturity that I have had until now, there's always a learning, but I don't walk away from people. And so the fact that he had the courage to walk away from us because it wasn't working and it wasn't healthy allowed me to grow up and allowed me to become the woman that I am today, because I wouldn't have if we'd stayed together. I've got stories of finding my sister dead, the death of my nephew, the death of my dad, and I can tell stories of magic and miracles in all of it. And so I know there are chapters in your lives that are really challenging. But if we shift our perspective, it changes our thoughts, it changes our beliefs, and this is how we blossom and flourish into the woman we're here to be, who we want to be. So perspective is your first word. What is my perspective? What is the meaning I'm giving this? What is the lesson that I'm choosing to take away from this? The next thing that I want to give you is the opportunity to start looking at your values. What makes you you? What is the philosophy for your life? What do you run your life by? These are your values. It's like the touchstones in your life that guide your thoughts, your beliefs, and your decisions. So my values, my core guiding values are love, unconditional love, and nature, Mother Nature. And so in any decision I make about anything that I do in any aspect of my life comes back to being in alignment with those two core guiding values. There is a wonderful book by Brené Brown called Dare to Lead that has a whole list of values. You can put in Brené Brown values and it will give you a whole list. There's courage, connection. There is dozens. There is no right and wrong. This is for you, no, not for anybody else. Your core guiding values are what you get to stand in. And there is a saying that I heard Dr. Maya Angelou say, who's sadly passed now, but is an incredibly wise woman who's left an extraordinary legacy of wisdom for us all to benefit from. But I heard her say at some point, she shall not be moved. And this is how I see my values. When you're standing in your values, your thoughts and beliefs are aligned with your values, you cannot be moved from that. And you will always, from that place, make the right decision for the highest good of all, for you and for everyone around you and for the world at large. So your thoughts and beliefs get to be planted firmly in your values. So perspective, values, intuition. There was a beautiful saying that I cut out many years ago and put on my vision board. And I have searched and searched and searched high and low for who said it, and I don't know. So I can't attribute it to anybody. And the words aren't exactly as they were because they've morphed as I've repeated them time and time again to myself. But the essence of it is this. And when I talk about intuition, I'm talking about you tapping in to the soul guiding voice within. That is yours. It is not influenced by anybody else. It is your divining instrument. The quote went something like this: And if you need to pause this and write it down for yourself and use it, please do. Excellence to me is the state of grace that descends when you tune out the clamor of the world and listen instead to the internal voice you know is wiser than the one in your head, and you transcribe without fear. So the essence of that is spend time in contemplation, in meditation, in silence. Learn to hear your intuitive wisdom again if you've lost touch with it. In my mastermind, in my Emboldened Women's Mastermind that runs for 12 months every year, we studied women who run with the wolves this year. And one of the stories in there is called Vasilisa. It's an amazing book. One of the stories in there is called Vasilisa, and it takes you through the 9 steps of reconnecting to your intuitive wisdom. I also did a podcast with Arian Griffin called Wise Women's Stories, and the first season of that is we walk through the 9 tasks of reconnecting you to your intuition, which is freely available. This information is out there for you to access. So perspective, values, intuition. Then the next piece is gratitude. Without gratitude for what you have, you will never experience abundance, and you will live permanently in this place of scarcity. I will be happy when I have that. I will be good enough when. I will be confident enough to when. It is this constant projecting into the future. We need to come back to the present, be grateful for everything that has been, be grateful for the fact that we are alive right now. And in that place, this foundation underneath you of your thoughts and beliefs and how you see your life and the world around you becomes a radically different picture. Nothing needs to change in who you are and the world around you in order for your life to suddenly look radically different. This piece, this gratitude piece, is of utmost importance. And after this masterclass next week, I'm going to run a full week, a gratitude practice that is, I've never seen anybody teach gratitude the way that I do, and it is magic. So that's coming next week if you want more support with that. But for now, I want you to spend time contemplating gratitude, what you have to be grateful for right now. And then the final piece of this puzzle, what I want to leave you with, is love. Unconditional love. The way that I feel about this, I can feel the emotions coming up. I leak, I cry unapologetically because I am so passionate about this work, because I understand how it dramatically transforms lives. The experience I recently had with my clients at Effervescence, where we all came together in person, it only happens once a year, where we get to hug each other and be together, to witness the transformation and what's possible when you learn about unconditional love and about becoming the woman you're here to become. It's pure magic. The relationship that I have with my husband now, my second husband, the relationship I have with my children, with my clients, I am a source of unconditional love for everybody in my world. I don't always like everybody. And if I lose respect for people, then I choose not to be around them. But it doesn't change the fact that I have unconditional love for them, for my first husband, for all of the hurts that have happened in my life. And like you, there have been plenty. There's a lot of scars, and I chose to mend those scars with gold, which is unconditional love for me. Because as I am a source of this, then it supports everybody around me. And I want you to understand that for yourself by becoming this woman who has a radically shifted perspective about who she is and the world around her and your unlimited potential to fulfill the calling that your soul has. When you understand your values, when you understand how to connect to your intuition, when you understand gratitude, and when you come to a place of unconditional love, the thoughts and beliefs that create the foundation for your life make absolutely anything possible. The Dalai Lama said, I think it was in 2018 at a World Peace Conference, the Western woman will change the world. And when I first heard that, I thought, what on earth? That, as far as I'm concerned, the Western world are destroying the earth. But now I get it. And it's from this place that we can literally change the world, one woman at a time. All right, beautiful souls, I'm going to leave it here. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I'll be sending out the recording for people to watch and rewatch, and I will see you again tomorrow for the second piece in the Embodiment Code. Thank you so much for being with us. So much love, and bye for now.